Okay, so just the last thing we need to think about is monitoring. Okay, if we're going to go off and do this activity, there's a few things we need to start to really look very carefully at. Okay, and part of it is the monitoring process to make sure that we're achieving the goals we set out to achieve. And there's a range of things we're going to look at. And one of the things we need to look at is our sales. Did they move? Okay, did the sales go up? Did the sales go down? We spent a lot of time and money, so that meant we need to look at what happened before we started doing the advertising and then to start to see if there's a pickup of sales afterwards. It could also just be inquiries. Okay, did we get more inquiries? Okay, if we've just been out there, I know as a bank, we advertise a lot of, lending and home loans and all that sort of gear. But the sale wouldn't happen straight away because the person hasn't found a house. But what we will get is we'll get a lot of inquiries about loans. Okay, so we have a big advertising campaign, come see us for your home loan for this spring so you can move in. But bear in mind, if they just bought it in spring, they're not actually going to move in for it could be months. So it might just be we're tracking inquiries at that stage because the sale is going to take ages to go through. I might also be able to track feedback. Okay, so are we asking people to fill in our feedback form for a chance to win or whatever it is? Are we seeing those levels of feedback coming through? Are those levels of feedback improving? Are we getting better engagement or less engagement? And that's what we talk about there. So, social media. Okay, if we're advertising and putting that information out there, are they coming to our social media site and then engaging with us there, okay? Are we running a competition on our social media site where we've got a broader advertising, say, come on here, click here on, go to our Facebook page, click here and possibly win a prize, those sort of things there. Are we being contacted more? Okay, so what's our level of contact? Are people phoning up, generally just asking for information? Once again, inquiries, that sort of gear, but are they emailing us or what's happening? We might also monitor the sharing of content. Okay, once again, very social media. That's going to allow us to track that stuff all the time. If we're putting stuff on there, are they then sharing it with their friends, getting other people to go through? And that's not just click the share and like button, but you might say to them, share your unique code with a bunch of friends for an additional chance to win or whatever it is. So we can actually see how wide they're spreading that message on our behalf. Okay, so that can be pretty good. We can monitor website visits. Okay, so if we're going to start tracking that, have a look at, was there an increase in traffic? Are more and more people coming? Are there additional potential clients? Okay, so we're tracking a little bit of interest there. I know there was a house selling next to me. I dropped in there the other day just to have a bit of a look. Spoke to the real estate agent, so I was just curious. And the first thing he did was grab my name and telephone number just, because I was potentially curious. So that allows him to maybe call me back later on and say, hey, look, you looked at this property, were you interested? Okay, so they put all their advertising material out in front, they're getting you to come in, and then when you come in, they make sure they capture your data. Okay, the next thing I can really then start to work out is what worked. Okay, so I'm very curious, what's working? Right? If I'm tracking all these things, how do I know which bit attracted those people? How do I know what worked? And more importantly, what didn't work? Okay, what didn't help me achieve my goal? What was a waste of time, waste of money, or it worked out pretty pointless? And then lastly, I can start to work out what needs to change. Okay, so what can we do differently either next time or start changing straight away? Now remember, the whole point of the monitoring is not something we're going to do after the activity, but during the activity, which meant we actually needed information before we started. We already needed to know what was our normal sales pattern, how many inquiries do we normally get, what's the sort of feedback we're already receiving. If we're tracking social media, what's the level of usage at the moment, how many website visits do we normally get, because what we now need to track is we've done the activity, let's find out whether that's happening. Do these things increase? Do our levels of sales increase? If we sold 10 this week, that's fantastic. But if all we did was sold 10 last week, well, that's no increase. Okay, so are we spending our time, doing the wrong thing? Is it not paying off? Or are we possibly spending a lot of money thinking we're doing a great job, but we would have done that job even if we didn't advertise? So always got to be thinking those things through really carefully. The monitoring, as I said, needs to happen beforehand to make sure you've got good data going in. It needs to happen during so you can see what's going on and see what effect you're starting to have or not have. And then it needs to happen afterwards as well so that when the thing is completed, you can see how long it still had a result for before you return to normal. And also thinking about, depending on what happens with that, what we could do differently next time. Next time, we worked out what worked, we worked out what didn't. So next time, we do more of what worked and we cut away what didn't work and we make sure that we're still effective. All right, so on this, you've now got a pretty good idea of making sure you're assigning the right people to the right tasks. You've thought about all your resources. We've talked quite a lot about monitoring. By this stage, you should have a media schedule ready to go. You've tracked all these things. You've thought about it. You've thought about how you're putting it all together. With your media scheduling and then your marketing activity and monitoring, etc., you should be ready to go out and start to put things on the ground and go for it. Okay, you've thought about getting the right message to the right people at the right time in the right place, using the right technique, and now you're making sure that you're getting the right result. Okay, you're doing all those things, marketing activity, pretty straightforward. Go out, make sure you plan it, execute, and record what happened. Okay, good stuff.